mystery of the mahamba. In the heart of Africa's deepest and most mysterious rivers and lakes, tales of a colossal crocodile known as mahamba have persisted for generations. This enormous reptile, said to reach lengths of up to 50 feet, has been a subject of fear and fascination among local populations. Despite skepticism from the scientific community, the consistency of eyewitness accounts and the cultural significance of mahamba suggest that this creature may be real and genuine. The legend of mahamba is deeply rooted in the folklore and oral traditions of various African tribes, particularly those living near the Congo River Basin and Lake Tanganyika. According to these traditions, mahamba is a giant, fearsome crocodile that dwarfs even the largest known Nile crocodiles. Descriptions of mahamba consistently depict it as an extraordinary creature, with some accounts suggesting it is nearly twice the length of the largest recorded crocodiles, making it a formidable presence in the waters it inhabits. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for mahamba's existence comes from the numerous eyewitness accounts by local fishermen, villagers, and explorers. These accounts often describe encounters with an enormous crocodile that defies conventional expectations. Fishermen recount harrowing stories of their boats being overturned by a massive force beneath the water, only to catch glimpses of a gargantuan crocodile swimming away. Such encounters have instilled a deep-seated fear and respect for mahamba among those who live near its purported habitat. In the early 20th century, Belgian colonists in the Congo Free State reported sightings of an exceptionally large crocodile in the Congo River. These reports were documented in colonial records, adding a layer of historical credibility to the mahamba legend. The colonists, who had no cultural or mythological ties to mahamba, were nonetheless struck by the sheer size of the creature they described, which aligns closely with the descriptions provided by indigenous people. Additionally, the discovery of prehistoric crocodile fossils provides a plausible scientific basis for mahamba's existence. Crocodiliforms, such as Sarcosuchus, which lived during the Cretaceous period, reached lengths of up to 40 feet or more. These ancient crocodiles demonstrate that the genetic potential for gigantism exists within the Crocodilidae family. It is conceivable that a remnant population of such colossal crocodiles could have survived in the remote and largely unexplored waterways of Central Africa, giving rise to the mahamba legend. The remoteness and inaccessibility of mahamba's purported habitat further support the possibility of its existence. The dense jungles, vast swamps, and deep river systems of the Congo Basin are among the least explored regions on Earth. This isolation provides an ideal environment for a large, elusive predator to thrive without being discovered by modern science. Moreover, the scarcity of comprehensive scientific expeditions in these regions means that many species, especially large aquatic predators, could remain undocumented. If mahamba is indeed real, its discovery would have profound implications for our understanding of crocodilian biology and the limits of natural growth in reptiles. It would challenge current assumptions about the maximum size of modern crocodiles and offer new insights into the evolutionary adaptations that allow such creatures to reach and sustain such enormous sizes. Additionally, the existence of mahamba would underscore the importance of preserving the natural habitats that harbor these hidden giants, as they play a crucial role in maintaining the ecological balance of their ecosystems. Furthermore, recognizing mahamba as a genuine species would validate the knowledge and experiences of the indigenous people who have coexisted with this formidable predator for generations. It would highlight the value of integrating traditional ecological knowledge with scientific research, fostering a more inclusive and respectful approach to understanding and conserving biodiversity. Local communities, with their deep connection to the land and its creatures, are invaluable partners in the search for and protection of such elusive species. In recent years, advancements in technology have provided new tools for investigating the mahamba phenomenon. High-resolution satellite imagery, drones, and underwater cameras offer the potential to explore and document remote regions with unprecedented precision. Collaborative efforts between scientists, local communities, and conservation organizations could help to systematically search for evidence of mahamba, providing a clearer understanding of its nature and habits. The enigma monen. This mysterious creature, often described as a colossal serpentine reptile, is said to inhabit the remote rivers and swamps of the region. Despite its elusive nature and the skepticism of the scientific community, numerous eyewitness accounts and consistent descriptions suggest that the enigma monen may be real and genuine. One of the most compelling aspects of the enigma monen legend is the consistency of eyewitness reports. Local fishermen, villagers, and hunters have recounted numerous encounters with the creature over the years, describing similar features and behaviors. Many of these accounts come from individuals who have spent their entire lives in the region and are intimately familiar with its wildlife, lending credibility to their testimonies. The enigma monen is often reported to be an aggressive predator, capable of capsizing boats and attacking large animals, further emphasizing its imposing presence in the local ecosystem. There are 3 documented testimonies of sightings that occurred along the Dongu Mataba, which is a tributary of the Ubangi River in the Republic of the Congo. The initial occurrence took place in 1961, followed by a further event 10 years later in 1971, led by Pastor Joseph Ellis. The individual approximated the length of the visible portion of the tail to be 10 meters or 30 feet, which was equivalent to the size of his dugout. No neck or head were visible. The diameter of the tail was judged to be between 0.5 and 1 meter. The color was characterized as a shade of gray with a hint of brown. Upon returning to the community, it became evident that the topic was considered forbidden or prohibited. University of Chicago biologist Roy P. McCall collected these and other observations during his 2 journeys to the Likwala marshes in the Republic of the Congo, where he was specifically looking for the Mokele Mbembe. McCall's analysis determined that the creature possesses a body that is close to the ground, making it more similar to a lizard rather than a snake. This conclusion was based on Ellis's assertion that the animal never elevated itself significantly after emerging from the water. The mysterious agogue. Described as a small, hairy, and elusive hominid, the agogue has captivated the imaginations of locals and explorers alike. Despite skepticism from mainstream science, the consistency and credibility of eyewitness accounts suggest that the agogue may be real and genuine. The name agogue refers to a small, bipedal creature reported to inhabit the forests of Tanzania and Mozambique. According to local legends and testimonies, the agogue stands approximately 3 to 4 feet tall, covered in reddish-brown or yellowish hair. Its physical appearance is strikingly similar to that of a small, primitive human, with long arms, a rounded forehead, and a pronounced brow ridge. Witnesses describe the humanoid as highly agile and adept at moving through the dense underbrush, making it challenging to observe for extended periods. One of the most compelling aspects of the agogue legend is the consistency of eyewitness reports. Local villagers, hunters, and even colonial administrators have recounted numerous encounters with the creature over the years, describing similar features and behaviors. These accounts come from individuals who are intimately familiar with the region's wildlife, lending credibility to their testimonies. The creature is often reported to exhibit cautious and elusive behavior, avoiding human contact whenever possible, which may explain the lack of physical evidence. A notable encounter occurred in the early 20th century when Captain William Hitchens, a British colonial officer, reported seeing the agogue while on a hunting expedition in Tanzania. Hitchens described the creature as a small, human-like figure covered in hair, moving swiftly through the forest. His account was later published in the journal Discovery in 1937, sparking widespread interest and debate about the existence of the agogue. Hitchens' detailed and credible description added significant weight to the legend, as it came from a respected and experienced observer. Further supporting evidence comes from local art and cultural traditions. Indigenous communities in East Africa have long depicted small, human-like creatures in their carvings, paintings, and folklore. These representations, which bear striking similarities to the descriptions of the agogue, suggest that the creature has been a part of the local cultural consciousness for generations. Such continuity in cultural depictions indicates that the agogue is more than a mere myth. It is a deeply ingrained part of the region's heritage and natural history. The dense, remote, and largely unexplored habitats of East Africa provide a plausible environment for a small, elusive hominid to exist undetected by modern science. The region's vast forests and jungles are among the least explored areas on Earth, offering ample hiding places for a creature like the agogue. The difficulty of conducting thorough scientific investigations in such challenging environments means that many species, particularly small and elusive ones, could remain undocumented. Moreover, the discovery of previously unknown species in similar remote regions lends credence to the possibility of the agogue's existence. In recent years, several new species of primates, mammals, and reptiles have been discovered in East Africa, underscoring the region's potential to harbor undiscovered creatures. These findings suggest that the natural world still holds many secrets, and the agogue could be one of them. The Lydenberg heads. The collection of 7 ceramic skulls was given the name of the location where they were found in the eastern Transvaal region of South Africa. The use of radiocarbon dating on charcoal samples retrieved from the excavation site has determined that the heads were interred at that location around in 500 AD, thereby establishing them as the most ancient African Iron Age artworks discovered south of the equator. The reconstructed heads are not exactly the same, but they do possess certain common features. The strips of clay are shaped into thin oval eyes, slightly protruding mouths, noses, and ears, with raised bands that decorate the faces. The backs of the heads are embellished with carved linear designs. The columnar necks are characterized by prominent grooved bands. Many African peoples consider necks adorned with fat as a symbol of wealth and continue to hold this belief. Nevertheless, the lack of substantial knowledge about the ancient culture responsible for creating the Lydenberg heads makes it currently unattainable to determine if the rings on them were intended to be interpreted in this manner. The 2 largest heads could have functioned as helmet masks. The larger heads can be distinguished from the smaller ones by the presence of animal figurines on their summits and the small clay spheres that create the illusion of elevated hairlines. The animals, previously concealed by a thick layer, are now challenging to recognize but possess circular faces that evoke the image of a lion's mane. The 5 smaller heads share similarities, save for one that features an animal face with a protruding snout. These skulls are too small to have been worn as helmets. They all feature small holes on either side of their lowest neck rings, which may have been utilized for attachment purposes. Due to several factors, there is speculation that the heads were utilized in initiation rituals, and there is even a possibility that they were worn. Specularite, a type of hematite characterized by its lustrous appearance when rotated, was deliberately positioned on the masks within incisions and elevated regions like the eyebrows. This has been referenced as a potential evidence that the heads were utilized in public rituals, since their shimmering effect would have been strikingly noticeable when they were moved in the presence of light. The presence of perforations in the 5 smaller heads and the larger size of the 2 remaining heads may suggest that these ceramic heads served as masks worn during different ceremonial occasions. Unfortunately, it is impossible to have definite knowledge about any of this. The utilization and significance of the heads still remain a subject of speculation. However, it is evident from the intentional way in which the heads were buried that regardless of their importance, they were regarded with enough reverence to be carefully laid to rest. Although the structures exhibit sophisticated designs and are rich in archaeological intricacies, the exact creators of these monuments remain unknown. There is a belief that the Iron Age Bantu-speaking people, who were a diverse collection of pastoral tribes across Africa, initially utilized these artifacts for religious purposes. While it is possible that this statement is accurate, it is important to note that our knowledge about them is quite limited as well. Presently, the Bantu consist of various separate groups and tribes, each with unique cultural attributes. Great Zimbabwe Ruins. The remains of Great Zimbabwe, believed by an ancient tale to have been the capital of the Queen of Sheba, serve as a remarkable testament to the Bantu civilization of the Shona people from the 11th to the 15th century. The city, spanning an area of around 80 hectares, held significant prominence as a trading hub and gained widespread recognition starting from the Middle Ages. Situated in a sparsely populated Bantu Shona region, the Great Zimbabwe National Monument is situated in the Lowveld at an elevation of roughly 1,100 meters, approximately 30 kilometers from Masvingo. The property, constructed from 1100 to 1450 AD, spans about 800 hectares and is categorized into 3 sections: the hill ruins, the great enclosure, and the valley ruins. The massive granite outcrop known as the hill ruins, which face both northeast and southwest, was constantly occupied from the 11th to the 15th century, and multiple layers of remnants of human dwellings can be found there. The enclosures are formed from rough granite rubble stone blocks, which can be entered by small corridors that are partially covered. The Acropolis is commonly regarded as a royal city. The western enclosure is believed to have housed successive leaders, while the eastern enclosure, where 6 steatite upright poles adorned with birds were discovered, is likely to have served a ceremonial function. Located south of the hills, and built in the 14th century, the great enclosure is shaped like an ellipsis. The structure was constructed using precisely cut granite blocks arranged in uniform layers. It comprises a sequence of daga hut residences, a communal space, and a short corridor that leads to a tall conical tower. The bricks, known as daga, were manufactured using a blend of granitic sand and clay. Within the stone enclosure walls, huts were constructed. Inside the communal area, further walls delineate each family's space, often consisting of a kitchen, 2 dwelling huts, and a courtyard. The 19th century dwelling ensembles dispersed across the valley are known as the valley ruins. Every ensemble shares common features, such as the use of brick in various constructions, huts, inside flooring and seats, holders for receivers and basins, and the use of dry stone masonry walls to provide insulation for each ensemble. The construction work exhibited a remarkable level of skill and artistry, reminiscent of later advancements in the Stone Age. It had intricate wall decorations adorned with chevron and checkered patterns. Based on scientific research, it has been established that the Shona, a Bantu population from the Iron Age, inhabited the location sparingly throughout prehistoric times. This Bantu population created Great Zimbabwe in the 11th century. During the 14th century, this city served as the main urban center of a significant state that encompassed the gold-rich plateaus. The population of the city surpassed 10,000 residents. By approximately 1450, the capital was deserted due to the inability of the surrounding area to provide enough food for the densely populated city and the extensive depletion of forests. The subsequent movement proved advantageous for Kami, as it emerged as the dominant city in the area, but also indicated a decline in political authority. In 1505, the Portuguese established a settlement in Sofala, which was formally divided between the competing kingdoms of Torwa and Moene. The magnitude of long-standing trade with the outside world has been attested to by the discovery of gold and Arab coins from Kilwa, as well as glass beads and porcelain from China and Persia during archaeological investigations. Additional evidence, such as fragments of pottery and items made of iron, provides greater understanding of the property's socio-economic intricacy and the practices of farming and herding. The presence of a colossal granite cross at a historically valued and important spiritual site serves as evidence of the community's interaction with missionaries. However, our knowledge regarding these remnants is limited. European travelers in the late 19th century were the first to document them, with some speculating that they were created by a long-lost white civilization. The notion has subsequently been discredited, and the inquiry into the creators of Great Zimbabwe and their origins continues to be a matter of contention. There is a scholarly debate on the origins of the builders of the structure. Some say that they were indigenous, specifically from the Bantu-speaking Shona tribe. On the other hand, some propose that they were migrants who came from either the coastal regions or North Africa. The mambutu. In the depths of Lake Tanganyika, the world's second oldest and second deepest freshwater lake, nestled between the borders of Tanzania, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Burundi, and Zambia, lies a mystery that has captivated the imaginations of local populations and intrigued researchers worldwide. The mambutu. Described as a mermaid-like creature, the mambutu is said to inhabit the lake's vast, uncharted waters. Despite skepticism from the scientific community, the consistency and credibility of eyewitness accounts suggest that the mambutu may be real and genuine. The name mambutu translates to water person in the local languages, reflecting the creature's human-like appearance. According to local legends and testimonies, the mambutu is described as having the upper body of a human, complete with arms and a head, but with the lower body of a fish, featuring scales and a powerful tail. Witnesses report that the creature's skin is often a shimmering, iridescent hue, and it possesses long, flowing hair that cascades down its back. The mambutu is said to be an elusive and intelligent being, capable of communicating with humans and possessing a deep understanding of the lake's ecosystem. One of the most compelling aspects of the mambutu legend is the consistency of eyewitness reports. Fishermen, villagers, and travelers have recounted numerous encounters with the creature over the years, describing similar features and behaviors. These accounts come from individuals who are intimately familiar with the region's wildlife, lending credibility to their testimonies. The mambutu is often reported to exhibit cautious and elusive behavior, surfacing only occasionally and avoiding prolonged human contact, which may explain the lack of physical evidence. A notable encounter occurred in the early 20th century when Belgian colonial officer Captain William Hitchens reported seeing a mermaid-like creature while on a boat in Lake Tanganyika. Hitchens described the creature as having a human-like face and upper body, with a fish-like tail. His account was later published, sparking widespread interest and debate about the existence of the mambutu. Hitchens' detailed and credible description added significant weight to the legend, as it came from a respected and experienced observer. Further supporting evidence comes from local art and cultural traditions. Indigenous communities around Lake Tanganyika have long depicted mermaid-like creatures in their carvings, paintings, and folklore. These representations, which bear striking similarities to the descriptions of the mambutu, suggest that the creature has been a part of the local cultural consciousness for generations. Such continuity in cultural depictions indicates that the mambutu is more than a mere myth. It is a deeply ingrained part of the region's heritage and natural history. The vast, remote, and largely unexplored habitat of Lake Tanganyika provides a plausible environment for a large, elusive aquatic creature to exist undetected by modern science. The lake's immense depth and complex underwater topography offer ample hiding places for a creature like the mambutu. The difficulty of conducting thorough scientific investigations in such challenging environments means that many species, particularly large and elusive ones, could remain undocumented. Moreover, the discovery of previously unknown aquatic species in similar remote regions lends credence to the possibility of the creature's existence. In recent years, several new species of fish and invertebrates have been discovered in Lake Tanganyika, underscoring the region's potential to harbour undiscovered creatures. And these findings suggest that the natural world still holds many secrets, and the mambutu could be one of them. The implications of discovering the mambutu would be profound, both scientifically and culturally. From a scientific perspective, the existence of such a mermaid-like creature would revolutionize our understanding of aquatic biodiversity and evolutionary biology. It would prompt new research into the evolutionary history and ecological role of mermaid-like beings, potentially leading to discoveries about their behavior, diet, and interactions with other species. Culturally, validating the existence of the mambutu would honor the knowledge and experiences of the indigenous people who have long reported its presence. It would highlight the importance of integrating traditional ecological knowledge with scientific research, fostering a more inclusive and respectful approach to studying and conserving biodiversity. Local communities, with their deep connection to the land and its creatures, are invaluable partners in the search for and protection of such elusive species. In recent years, advancements in technology have provided new tools for investigating the mambutu phenomenon. High-resolution sonar, underwater cameras, and remotely operated vehicles offer the potential to explore and document the depths of Lake Tanganyika with unprecedented precision. Collaborative efforts between scientists, local communities, and conservation organizations could help to systematically search for evidence of the mambutu, providing a clearer understanding of its nature and habits. Who created the Dabous giraffes? Dabous is situated in the northeastern region of Niger, near the convergence of the Tenere Desert and the foothills of the Air Mountains. The territory has been included in the Trans-Saharan Caravan trade route, which has been travelled by the Tuareg people for more than 2,000 years. However, archaeological findings indicate that the area has been inhabited for far longer, with evidence of settlement extending back 8,000 years. In recent times, its remarkable rock art has gained recognition from a broader global audience. In 1987, French archaeologist Christian Dupuy discovered 2 extraordinary life-size engravings of giraffes that have attracted significant attention due to their impressive size, lifelike appearance, and skilled execution. The two giraffes, believed to be a dominant male, followed by a petite female, were etched onto the aged facade of a sandstone formation. The larger giraffe has a length of 5.4 meters and is made using several production techniques, including scraping, polishing, and deep etching of the outlines. Every giraffe possesses a carved line that originates from its mouth or nose and winds its way down to a little human form. This motif is a common occurrence in Saharan rock art, however its significance remains a mystery. Interpretations of the line have proposed that it could signify the hunting or domestication of giraffes, or it may represent a religious, mythical, or cultural connection. Additionally, there have been suggestions that the lines and human figures were subsequently added. Although it is evident that significant effort was invested in their creation, the specific identity of the individuals responsible remains unknown. In addition to the giraffes, the Dabus site contains a diverse array of carvings encompassing many species of animals, humans, and combinations of humans and animals. Although currently situated in a secluded area of the Sahara Desert, it is likely that the place was once a sprawling savanna when these petroglyphs were originally created. The Casai rex. Described as a massive, predatory dinosaur-like animal, the Casai rex is said to roam the isolated wilderness of the Kasai Valley in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Despite the skepticism of mainstream science, the consistency and credibility of eyewitness accounts suggest that the Casai rex may be real and genuine. The name Casai rex conjures images of the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the most fearsome predators of the prehistoric world. According to local legends and testimonies, the Casai rex closely resembles a large theropod dinosaur with an estimated length of 40 to 50 feet. Witnesses describe the creature as having a massive muscular body, powerful hind legs, short forelimbs, and a large head with formidable jaws filled with sharp teeth. Its skin is often depicted as rough and scaly, with a coloration that blends seamlessly with the jungle environment. John Johnson, sometimes known as Johansson, was an expert hunter from Sweden. One day in 1932, he and his servant left their camp near Cape Town to go hunting for a large elephant. They traversed a marshy area till they eventually arrived at the savannah, located in the Kasai Valley. The grassland was barren, devoid of any wildlife. However, the servant's excitement abruptly turned into alarm upon spotting two elephants, prompting Johnson to prepare his shotgun. Nevertheless, it became apparent that there was an issue with the elephants. There were merely two, as opposed to a complete herd. Approximately 44 meters off, there was a presence concealed behind the undergrowth observing the elephants with predatory intent. Unexpectedly, a peculiar creature leaped. The servant swiftly descended into the dense vegetation, while Johnson, immobilized by shock, adjusted his target and made the decision to shoot at this peculiar being. The individual discharged their firearm 3 times, with only one projectile successfully striking the beast, namely in its posterior region. The entity retreated and departed. Johnson assisted his servant in rising from the ground and made the decision to return to his camp in Cape Town. However, before proceeding, they needed to traverse the swamp. Upon reaching the midpoint of the marsh, they were startled by a sudden splash, which immediately brought to mind the presence of crocodiles. Johnson searched extensively until they spotted the identical thing they had previously seen in the savannah, devouring the hump of a rhinoceros 22 meters distant. With a single bite, the creature effortlessly severed one of the rhinoceros' legs. Johnson's servant fled in fear, while John remained in place. He promptly considered shooting the beast, but recollected with fear that the servant had confiscated his shotgun. However, he retained possession of his camera and proceeded to capture an image of the creature. In response to the sound of the camera's shutter, the creature swiftly submerged under the lake, while the lifeless body of the rhinoceros remained afloat in a pool of blood. After coming back to the camp, John, trembling and quivering, carried the camera and then fell down. The soldiers present there helped him to stand up. In his interview with the newspaper Rhodesia Herald, he described it as having a reddish hue and blackish stripes. He said that the creature possessed an elongated muzzle and a multitude of teeth. He concluded that the monster, measuring 13 meters or 43 feet in length, was a tyrannosaurus. Additionally, he remarked that the creature's legs were robust, resembling those of a lion, suggesting that it was adapted for swift movement. In early 1933, a party consisting of 5 hunters, including a notorious ivory smuggler, embarked on a journey to the Casai Valley with the intention of hunting down a creature known as the Casai Rex. This creature, referred to as a colossal crocodile by the Rhodesia Herald newspaper, was sought after for its valuable skin, which the hunters planned to sell at a lucrative price. They reached the Casai Valley and traversed the identical marshland that Johnson had crossed the year before. One of the hunters was alarmed when they observed a crimson tail submerge into the lake. They initially suspected it to be an anaconda, until the ambience grew tense. They prepared their weapons, only to be taken aback by an unexpected deluge of water descending upon them from the left. The crimson appendage forcefully departed from the swamp and collided with one of the hunters, causing them to plunge into the water. The remaining 4 individuals commenced firing a crimson substance that sank beneath the ocean's surface. They observed no discernible objects, only undulating waves of water dispersing throughout the expanse. The incapacitated individual, with a fractured arm, rose and endeavored to approach his comrades. An ominous sound emanated from beneath the water's surface, prompting them to swiftly navigate their way. However, their progress was impeded by a colossal creature emerging from the right side and submerging on the left side. The hunters concealed themselves within a boulder and ultimately departed from the vicinity. The kongamato. In the dense, verdant jungles and vast subtropical regions of Africa, legends and whispers speak of a formidable creature that has eluded definitive scientific classification, the kongamato. Described as a large pterosaur-like entity, the kongamato is said to inhabit remote areas of Zambia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Angola. Despite its status as a cryptid, a creature whose existence is suggested but not yet confirmed by mainstream science, numerous eyewitness accounts and cultural testimonies lend credence to the idea that the kongamato is real and genuine. The name kongamato translates to breaker of boats, a moniker that vividly underscores the creature's formidable presence. According to local lore and eyewitness accounts, the kongamato resembles a prehistoric pterosaur, with an estimated wingspan ranging from 4 to 7 feet. It is often described as having leathery wings, a long beak filled with sharp teeth, and a distinctly reptilian appearance. The creature is said to be aggressive, with reports of it attacking canoes and fishermen on African rivers, lending both terror and mystique to its legend. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the kongamato's existence comes from the testimonies of local tribes people who live in the regions where the creature is said to dwell. These communities have long histories of oral traditions and a deep understanding of their natural environments. Their consistent descriptions of the kongamato, which align closely with the features of a pterosaur, suggest that these accounts are based on genuine sightings rather than myth or folklore. In 1925, Frank H. Melland, a British colonial official and explorer, published In Witchbound Africa, in which he recounted numerous reports of the kongamato from indigenous people in Zambia. Melland himself collected stories of the creature from the Kayonde people, who feared and revered it. He was particularly struck by the consistency of their descriptions, which matched those of a prehistoric pterosaur, despite the lack of any known pterosaur fossils being discovered in the region at that time. Moreover, European explorers and missionaries have also reported encounters with the kongamato. In the early 20th century, explorer John G. Millay recorded similar accounts during his travels in Angola. In one particularly striking incident, a local man showed Millay a wound on his chest, claiming it was inflicted by a kongamato. The wound's nature and the man's detailed description of the attack were enough to convince Millay of the creature's potential reality. Scientific skepticism regarding the existence of the kongamato primarily hinges on the lack of physical evidence, such as bones or definitive photographic documentation. However, the remoteness and inaccessibility of its purported habitat make it plausible that a large, elusive creature could evade capture or discovery by conventional means. The dense jungles and vast, unexplored regions of Africa provide ample hiding places for a creature adept at avoiding human contact. Additionally, recent discoveries in paleontology have shown that pterosaurs, once thought to have gone extinct 65 million years ago, might have had more resilient and adaptable descendants than previously believed. The notion that a remnant population of these creatures could have survived in isolated pockets of the world is not entirely outside the realm of possibility. If the kongamato is indeed a living pterosaur, its discovery would have profound implications for our understanding of evolutionary biology and paleontology. It would challenge existing paradigms about the extinction of dinosaurs and their relatives, suggesting that some lineages might have persisted in isolated environments. Such a discovery would also underscore the importance of preserving the world's remaining wild places, as they may harbor undiscovered species and biological treasures. Furthermore, acknowledging the existence of the kongamato would validate the knowledge and experiences of indigenous peoples, whose testimonies have often been dismissed or overlooked by mainstream science. It would highlight the value of integrating traditional ecological knowledge with scientific inquiry, fostering a more inclusive and holistic approach to understanding biodiversity. The untouched Mount Liko. Eastern Africa has a limited amount of primary forest remaining. According to the 2015 data from the Food and Agriculture Association of the United Nations, there are no official records of famine in Mozambique. However, a section of untouched woodland has lately been found and examined in the Zambezia region of the country. It was concealed in an obvious location on the summit of a mountain. The forest was first discovered by conservation expert Julian Bayliss using Google Earth. This is not the first occasion on which he has done so. In 2005, he utilized the platform to discover an unknown rainforest on Mount Mabu in Mozambique. In order to verify the existence of this most recent forest, Bayliss journeyed to the foot of Mount Liko and deployed an unmanned aerial vehicle to reach its summit. In May, Bayliss and a team including around 25 scientists and experts embarked on an excursion to investigate the biodiversity of this elevated island, examining its flora and fauna. They ascended by utilizing ropes and swiftly acquired rock climbing skills to elevate themselves and their gear up the 410-foot vertical cliffs. Bayliss achieved the summit before anyone else. While he awaited the arrival of his teammates, he surveyed his surroundings and experienced a profound feeling of curiosity and enthusiasm. He informed Mongabe that the initial observation that stood out to him was the remarkable silence of the jungle. Nevertheless, numerous animal trails were observed in the dense vegetation, which was highly thrilling. They were immediately impressed by the remarkable openness of the forest floor, indicating minimal disruption and a dense above canopy. During the next fortnight, the crew conducted a comprehensive survey of the majority of Mount Liko's forest. They discovered numerous diverse organisms and have reason to believe that some of them are previously undiscovered species, including a distinct butterfly that has not been documented by science before. Bayliss stated that the comprehensive findings will be disclosed in a forthcoming film, anticipated to be released in the early months of the upcoming year. Mount Liko and other isolated mountains in eastern Africa, known as Inselbergs, were created through the progressive erosion of the surrounding flat. Granite, being a type of hardstone, exhibits greater resistance to erosion. Consequently, while the surrounding soil eroded over millions of years, these areas of hardstone endured and gradually transformed into striking monoliths. Over time, their elevation increased to the point where they had the ability to impact the regional weather by generating clouds and precipitation as the air ascended from the warmer lowlands to their colder, higher altitudes. Liko and adjacent Inselbergs in eastern Africa are vital water supplies for the nearby lowlands. They are so important that local communities refer to them as Rainmaker Mountains. He recounted discovering inverted clay vessels atop Mount Liko, positioned in close proximity to the initial point of the principal watercourse originating from the mountain. He speculates that this act was carried out as a religious offering in an attempt to secure an abundant water supply for the crops located below during the arid season. The mysterious Richat structure. The Richat structure, sometimes called the Guelb-er-Richat or the Blue Eye of the Sahara, is a large bullseye-shaped geological structure located in the Sahara Desert. The formation spans a 40-kilometer-wide expanse of the desert in the country of Mauritania. Throughout millennia, the knowledge of the formation was limited to a small number of indigenous nomadic tribes. The Gemini astronauts first captured images of it in the 1960s, using it as a reference point to monitor the advancement of their landing procedures. Subsequently, The Landsat satellite captured supplementary photographs and furnished data regarding the dimensions, elevation, and scope of the formation. The Eye of the Sahara was first thought by geologists to be an impact crater formed when an object from space collided with the Earth. Nevertheless, extensive analyses of the rocks within the formation indicate that its origins are solely terrestrial. It has been determined by geologists that the Eye of the Sahara is a geologic dome. The formation has rocks that have a minimum age of 100 million years, with some dating back to a time well before the emergence of life on Earth. These rocks consist of both igneous volcanic deposits and sedimentary layers that are formed by the wind pushing layers of dust and water depositing sand and mud. The entire area surrounding the eye was raised millions of years ago by volcanic activity that originated deep beneath the surface of the Earth. These regions were not arid wastelands, as they currently are. It is probable that they were considerably milder, characterized by a plentiful supply of flowing water. Stratified sandstone formations were formed through Aeolian deposition in lacustrine and fluvial environments throughout the temperate period. The subterranean volcanic magma gradually exerted enough force to uplift the layers of sandstone and other rock formations above it. Following the cessation of volcanic activity, the process of wind and water erosion commenced, gradually eroding the successive layers of rock forming the domed structure. The region underwent a process of stabilization and contraction, resulting in the formation of a round eye characteristic. It is important to mention that there are still some who believe that the construction is, in fact, the remnants of the mythical city of Atlantis, as its circular form is claimed to bear resemblance to the region described by Plato. The account from ancient Greece is conveyed to us through recorded history, specifically by Plato, one of the most prolific writers in philosophy. Atlantis is initially mentioned in the stories Timaeus and Critias by the author. In the dialogue Timaeus, the character Critias recounts a narrative to Socrates. The protagonist Solon, who is a historical predecessor of Plato, embarks on a lengthy voyage to Egypt in this narrative. He converses with an Egyptian priest about ancient history. The priest, not impressed by Solon's stories, resolves to enlighten him with an obscure historical narrative that was unfamiliar to the Greeks during that period. An Egyptian elder provides Solon with a synopsis of the ideal state of Athens, predating the Athenians' own historical records. He characterizes Athens during this period as being exceptional in all intellectual endeavors, leading a virtuous lifestyle and adhering to the principle of moderation. The text describes the efforts of Atlantis, a formidable kingdom, to conquer neighboring civilizations, especially Egypt. However, it was the Athenians who successfully thwarted their ambitions. Right after their loss, the continent of Atlantis was engulfed by devastating floods and earthquakes, resulting in the submergence of the land under muddy terrain, rendering the once navigable seas impassable. Plato provides a more elaborate account of Atlantis in his work, Critias. Atlantis was established by Poseidon, the deity who developed a deep affection for a mortal woman named Cleito. Collectively, they had 5 pairs of twins, who eventually grew up and assumed control over the 10 distinct provinces of Atlantis. Over time, it is hypothesized that these monarchs gradually partitioned sections of this legendary territory with the intention of establishing a lasting heritage within each family. The Atlanteans developed into a highly sophisticated culture, surpassing all other contemporary civilizations in terms of advancement. They were renowned for their advanced skills in sea navigation, city planning, military endeavors, and agricultural practices. The city of Atlantis was a central citadel surrounded by 6 concentric rings, consisting of 3 rings of water and 3 circles of land. Plato's dialogue depicts the city of Atlantis as situated 50 stades away from the sea, equivalent to little less than 6 miles. Atlantis was linked to the ocean with a canal that was 300 feet in width and 100 feet in depth. The canal terminated at a harbor located near the settlement. Plato described Atlantis as a continent that was bigger than the combined size of Asia and Libya. The city is situated amidst expansive plains that span around 230 miles in width and 345 miles in length. Towards the northern end of the continent, there is a substantial mountain range, while the remaining central plains are encircled by smaller mountains. The entire continent was characterized as having fertile soil, abundant plant and animal biodiversity, including elephants, and favorable temperatures for supporting various life forms. Plato meticulously documents several characteristics of Atlantis in great detail throughout the dialogue. He describes the central palace, exquisite bathhouses, temples, gold and silver statues, gardens, aqueducts, water storage cisterns, residential buildings for both humans and animals, guardhouses, and even racetracks. In the city of Atlantis, bulls were revered and considered sacred, freely wandering the streets. Plato proceeds to delineate more settlements of individuals in the adjacent regions of the continent, categorizing them as affluent agriculturalists and rural inhabitants. Plato elucidates the organizational structure of the military implemented by the city-state of Atlantis. He provides extensive information about the different positions held by individuals in the ancient city and its social structure, ranging from the king to the citizens. In the latter part of the Timaeus debate, Plato discusses the Atlanteans' descent into complacency within their human nature as they succumb to corruption fueled by greed and gradually lose their sense of dignity. In the conclusion of the Critias, it is stated that Zeus intends to exact vengeance for these deeds, and subsequently, the conversation abruptly terminates. Timaeus and Critias, like much of Plato's writings, are often interpreted by scholars as fictional narratives intended to convey metaphorical meanings. However, there are also many who consider them to be genuine historical records of actual occurrences. Solon, moreover, was a direct predecessor of Plato and plausibly had the opportunity to personally journey to Egypt, where he could have acquired knowledge of Atlantis, subsequently transmitting the account to Plato. An argument in favor of the existence of Atlantis is the meticulous level of detail that Plato employed in his description of this ancient civilization. Why expend such a significant amount of energy on elucidating the most infinitesimal particulars, solely to convey a metaphor? Plato provided Critias with specific and logical information about a place that may have existed in the past and could potentially now exist, including dimensions of the entire continent, as well as data about the depth and width of the canals and concentric circles within the city. Plato may have potentially utilized a genuine historical account as a basis and then enhanced it with an artistic method to effectively convey his metaphors. Several Atlantologists, who specialize in studying flood history documented by ancient Egyptians, Mesoamericans, and some European societies, also maintain the belief that Plato was recounting genuine historical occurrences. The prevailing belief is that the deluge that submerged Atlantis is identical to the flood depicted in the narrative of Noah's Ark. However, flood narratives can be traced back to a time predating the Bible, and numerous of these narratives exhibit striking resemblances with just minor variations. Therefore, it raises the question, what is the reason behind the prevalence of identical flood stories throughout various cultures? One hypothesis posits that these floods occurred during the final stages of the previous glacial period. This aligns with Plato's account of the demise of Atlantis, as recounted by the Egyptian sage, around 9,000 years prior to Solon's visit to Egypt. This is when empirically validated geological discoveries become relevant. Scientific evidence confirms that around 11,600 years ago, the Earth saw significant increases in sea level. In order for this idea to be logical, it is necessary to assume that Atlantis existed during the last ice age. Furthermore, it is speculated that towards the conclusion of this age, a pole shift may have occurred, resulting in several catastrophic catastrophes. Speculation exists among researchers that survivors from this ancient maritime culture may have established contact with neighboring civilizations like Egypt in Africa, the Incan and Aztec empires in South and Central America, as well as Babylonia and Sumer in Mesopotamia, and perhaps India. Each of these societies possesses narratives recounting the emergence of men following a catastrophic flood occurrence. In ancient Egypt, Thoth and Osiris were revered deities. In the Inca civilization, Viracocha held a similar position of importance. The Aztec Empire worshipped Quetzalcoatl as a significant god. In India, Vishnu was a highly venerated deity. In Babylonia, Oannes was a prominent figure in religious beliefs. It is possible that the survivors from Atlantis journeyed to various locations and, because of their high level of development, were revered as deities, exerting a significant influence on the historical development of each culture. An hypothesis that substantiates this theory is the unearthing of pyramids and constructions resembling pyramids in all of these regions. Presumably, the survivors disseminated their understanding of pyramids and their celestial alignment, with the expectation that subsequent civilizations would assemble the evidence and unravel this enigma. Another hypothesis posits that Atlantis was indeed obliterated during the conclusion of the Bronze Age. The reason for this confusion in historical timelines might be attributed to the ancient Egyptian method of timekeeping. The ancient Egyptians employed both solar and lunar years to measure time. Solar years consist of 365 days per year, but lunar years are counted in months. If the Egyptian sage who recounted the tale of Atlantis to Solon was referring to lunar years, equivalent to 9,000 months rather than standard years, this could have coincided with the conclusion of the Bronze Age. Another historical tale documented by the Egyptians that supports this theory is referred to as the invasion of the Sea Peoples. During the period known as the Bronze Age collapse, an unidentified faction launched an assault on Egypt and many regions in the eastern Mediterranean. Emerging seemingly out of obscurity, they swiftly attacked Egypt from the Mediterranean Sea. The Battle of the Delta, a renowned conflict, took place. Egypt successfully repelled the unidentified assailants. Is it possible that these assailants were indeed individuals from the lost civilization of Atlantis? Regardless, it is possible that they were not engaging in an attack, but rather Egypt was employing an offensive defense strategy and documented the war as if they were the ones being invaded. Considering the aforementioned evidence and the substantial support for the existence of Atlantis, the question arises, where may it be concealed? The precise location of Atlantis and the potential whereabouts of its ruins are subjects of intense controversy within the field of Atlantology. Various speculations on the site span throughout the globe, encompassing the Canary and Azores Islands, the North and Irish Seas of the Atlantic, the Spartel Bank, and southern Morocco near Gibraltar, and possibly the Cyprus Basin. Although there are other potential places for Atlantis, this video will focus on 3 that are both widely believed to be Atlantis and have substantial factual evidence supporting their claims. The initial potential site is currently identified as Doñana National Park in the southwestern region of Andalusia, Spain. The primary corroborating evidence for this site is its geological placement. According to Plato, Atlantis was located in close proximity to or somewhat beyond the Pillars of Heracles, now recognized as the Rock of Gibraltar. Some people claim that this location is the ancient civilization of Tartessos. This location is referenced multiple times in the Bible, but is referred to as Tarshish. It is described as a highly prosperous civilization, abundant in valuable materials such as gold, copper, tin, silver, and iron. The minerals stated throughout Plato's dialogues while describing Atlantis are the same. Several scholars suggest that Tartessos and Atlantis may well be synonymous, albeit referred to by distinct names in other civilizations. Additional corroborating evidence for this location may be found in the Tartessian ruins located in Cancho Roano, which is situated directly north of Doñana Park. It is widely acknowledged that following the deluge, a portion of the survivors from Tartessos, also known as Atlantis, migrated towards the northern regions. Archaeologists have uncovered ruins in Cancho Roano that have a striking resemblance to a smaller version of Plato's legendary metropolis of Atlantis. At the entrance of this miniature version of Atlantis, there is a sculpture of a warrior positioned in front of 3 concentric circles. Another potential site for the elusive metropolis of Atlantis is the contemporary island of Santorini, situated to the north of Crete. During the later stages of the Bronze Age, a significant occurrence called the Thera eruption, also referred to as the Minoan eruption, occurred. This was a devastating volcanic eruption that decimated the bulk of Santorini, as well as inflicted devastation on adjacent islands through seismic activity and tsunamis. Currently, there was a Minoan town located on the island, which held a prominent position as a maritime force in the eastern Mediterranean. Archaeologists have discovered that this city had sophisticated engineering expertise, which included the construction of 3 to 4-story buildings, constructions designed to withstand mild earthquakes, as well as plumbing and sewage systems. The Minoans were discovered to venerate bulls, similar to the Atlanteans. Prior to the Thera eruption, the island may have exhibited a ring-like shape similar to Plato's description. However, this location does not support any association with the Pillars of Heracles, assuming that is indeed their correct location. It is possible that survivors of the eruption sought refuge in neighboring civilizations, which could establish a link between Santorini and the narratives involving the sea peoples, or the notion of being revered as deities among the aforementioned cultures. The continent of Antarctica is seen as the third and ultimate potential location for the lost civilization of Atlantis. The foundation of this concept is rooted in the crustal displacement hypothesis. Essentially, this hypothesis posits that the Earth's crust undergoes a shifting process akin to the movement of the skin of a grapefruit over its soft inner part. This idea is augmented by additional theories, such as continental drift and the aforementioned pole shift theory. Crustal displacement is supported by the discovery of excavated remnants of woolly mammoths in North America. Upon their discovery, experts saw that the stomach contents of these creatures consisted of food typically found in warm climates. This indicates that they were frozen so quickly that they were unable to escape. According to Plato, Atlantis was described as being larger than Libya and Asia combined, which could be a plausible comparison to the potential size of Antarctica without its glacial covering. Contemporary scholars have, however, highlighted that ancient sailors frequently assessed the size of land masses based on their coastline boundaries rather than their true acreage. When considering the true lengths of Asia and Libya's coastlines, as perceived by ancient mapmakers, it is possible that the land area of Atlantis was more comparable to the proportions of Cyprus or Sardinia. Researchers commonly acknowledge that ancient Greek poets may have mislabeled what is now known as Asia and Libya. An instance of this could be mentioning the Kingdom of Lydia, located in Turkey rather than Asia, or referring to a geographical area near the Nile Delta instead of Libya. Recently, aerial photographs have been taken of multiple concentrically structured formations over Antarctica. Is it conceivable that these structures represent remnants of ancient civilizations from Atlantis? Until further knowledge is acquired, the enigma of Atlantis will persist as an inexplicable phenomenon in the globe.